You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Just a heads up, this episode is brought to you by the Script Summit Screenplay Contest, where you can win a cash prize or even a contract with a Hollywood talent manager. All you have to do is visit scriptsummit.com for more info. All right, welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast. On this episode, I am joined by a guest host as we analyze and break down a film to discover what works and what doesn't. Real quick before we get started, I wanted to mention that we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary of the Successful Screenwriter Podcast with a huge giveaway. This is awesome. We have a ton of prizes for you, from mentorships to swag, and you can enter it absolutely for free. All you have to do is visit the Successful Screenwriter Facebook page and click on the giveaway tab, or go to thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/podcast. Now, you can enter multiple times too, but keep an ear out this episode for the secret code, which you can get 5 free entries with. All right, welcome to the podcast. I'm Geoffrey D. Calhoun, your host, as well as Kristy Leigh Lussier, story analyst at WeFixYourScript.com. Thanks for being with us.
Well, hello. I'm very excited.
All right, we are going to take a look at your next this week, and I'm going to hit you with this logline. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
When the Davison family comes under attack during their wedding anniversary getaway, the gang of mysterious killers soon learns that one of the victims harbors a secret talent for fighting back. All right. Good. I've got thoughts on this one. I know you do too.
Yes, I have thoughts.
Is this part of a horror genre called mumble gore? Have you ever heard of that? Yeah, so it's a mumble gore genre where it's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of kind of interpersonal dynamics and drama, and then they work in the low budget horror after the fact, right?
Okay.
So so this is kind of that genre, and I think it hits it. What I really enjoyed about this film as compared to a lot of other horror films is when you see some horror films, it feels forced, it feels staged, the reactions to deaths, right? But the way these characters were reacting to the traumas they were experiencing, to me, felt authentic.
Oh, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did feel there were a few that I felt were a little over the top, but ultimately you've got this wide breadth of people who are going to all have a different kind of reaction to something like that anyway.
Yeah. What do you what do you feel was over the top? Let's dive into it.
Honestly, I feel like the mother character for me, the whole I'm going to faint and going to pass out, take me up to my room. I was like, come on. Yeah. I mean, you're a mother, and even if it's grown adult children, your first instinct is to jump into mom mode and protect the crap out of your family.
Go mama bear.
Go mama bear.
She was definitely falling apart. Well, I will tell you though, the reaction that I saw that I appreciated is when the daughter runs full bore.
Oh.
And slices her throat open on the wire fence. When mom is sitting there screaming my baby and can't take it in, that felt real. I was like that, having been in a situation similar to that, personally, we had a big scare with my son, and that kind of helplessness. Yes. But the get me up to the room so I'm away from everybody so we can have this murder happen, I can understand.
Yeah.
I can see your frustration with that.
Yeah. There were a few times that I was like, this, okay, let's just, no, do something else. I'm one of those people that yells at the TV, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Yeah. What I did like was, so the central character has this hidden ability that there is like no hint towards, and that can backfire, but it seems to work in this one.
Yeah.
She's a bit of a mystery, and how I like that they sell the character more. And I think without this scene, it wouldn't have worked because she's very clingy. She's very all about her boyfriend. And so that can actually be almost a turnoff from a character where you're like, what is going on with this character that she has to be so clingy? But the opening scene of the guy and his sugar baby, and they're having that intimate moment, and it feels very like she's just getting it over with. She's really not into this guy.
Yeah.
And she's just there for the money. And so starting out with a character like that, who is kind of detached from this sugar daddy that she has,
Right.
and then they both get murdered. Then we come into this woman who is in love, who cares about this guy. It really sold her character more, I felt.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. But she does, I mean, she gives a sense of capability though. I mean, even as the first kind of incident starts to happen, she jumps in with this kind of leadership characteristic. And I felt that to be believable.
Yeah. I thought that was great. She takes charge. She's an alpha.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a little bit of mystery there. What is she, military? And I know survivalists. I know guys. I've done tactical training. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know real guys like that I want to be in a room with them if things go south, Like one of my buddies called me right before COVID hit, and he said, you need to get all these things. So I did. I went and I bought all these things, and then COVID hit, and I was ready. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to remember to shout out to my man, Carl. So
yes, there you go.
Yeah. So I thought she was very capable, and I really did enjoy the twist of later in the movie where it essentially becomes a reverse horror.
Oh, for sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know which, are you talking about the first kind of twist that we really see?
No, I think towards the end of it, but let's go into the first twist. What did you think about that?
Again, I feel like, I don't know. This is where I kind of asked the question. I got the sense as the direction went forward, as I was watching it,
Mm-hmm.
that it was leading towards pointing to that twist. And I caught it every single time these specific characters were on screen. Okay. So then I didn't feel like it was that much of a twist. I kind of was just like, yeah, I called it, like kind of feeling. I didn't feel like it.
You knew exactly where this was going.
I didn't get the payoff that I wanted. Is pretty much what, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So you could kind of pick up the beats of where. What was the payoff that you were looking for?
Well, I think probably the one that comes a little bit later is that payoff that I was like, okay, even though I kind of saw it coming, this is the one I was like expecting.
So you expected her boyfriend was the unknown villain. Yeah. We all saw that coming. I think it's hard to work around that because you can't show him getting injured, right? Because then the plot line doesn't make sense. So the only other way I think I would have tried to trick the audience is if we had him in the woods and then he slipped and fell or something. And then we thought, oh, but he's just a clumsy dude, which he already was.
Right.
So that probably could have worked as a way to kind of fool the audience so that we don't think like he's like literally chilling outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the longer the longer you don't see him, the more and more you're like, this guy's going to pop up at the end, probably is the bad guy.
Right.
Like you've got to be able to at least show that he is even outside and there is a kind of a line for him. He's kind of on his own arc, even if at the end, whatever happens.
Now, storyline structure wise, did you expect the younger brother to be in on it?
No, I mean, I didn't expect the younger brother to be on it. What I felt was that there was some interesting direction where they kept specifically showing on scene him and the girlfriend.
Right.
And they had these weird looks on their faces.
Yeah, I like that.
They were the first two that bolted when everything started to happen in the dining room. So I thought, okay, that was another sign. But it was always just like, oh, we were upstairs because something happened. It's like, dude, something's wrong with you. Like, that's when I felt like, so when the twist happened, it was like, okay, here's the twist. But you kind of already let me know because they were just acting weird the whole time anyway.
They were. And I think the goth girlfriend was a bit of a giveaway. I think it was too almost on the nose. I think casting it differently might have been a little bit more of a surprise, but I did like the fact that the younger, quieter brother, who we thought was just that nobody paid attention to, ended up being like the mastermind of the operation. I really did enjoy that. And I really liked the inter-character dynamics there, the jealousy between the brothers and the fighting and the arguing. Now, sometimes, and I don't know with this film, I tried to find out, but I wasn't able to. Sometimes in the genre, a lot of that is kind of ad-libbed and improv. It isn't actually written in the script. So I don't know if this was just the characters the actors making decisions or not, but it did feel real. I mean, it felt like this is what real brothers would argue about and fight about. I did enjoy that.
I think the dinner sequence actually does feel that way. If there's a scene where I would be like, they were probably ad-libbing a lot of that. It's just a family fighting at the dinner table. Yeah. And if that's what they did a great job because it felt, again, pretty authentic. Yeah.
And thematically, that's about where we were at. It was thematically, it was family dynamics.
Yes.
I mean, that's it. There wasn't a whole lot theme-wise we can dive into. This type of genre tends to focus more on dialogue and less on plot. That's part of the mumblecore or mumblegore genre. Now, what I did like, though, is that thematically it's about family, right?
Sure.
And this family hates each other. So we have a family hates each other. But what happens when the first killer is offed by our protagonist and then the second killer finds the body?
Oh, yeah. He just loses his mind.
He loses it. He is broken. He is sobbing. This is a guy that just killed somebody. Right.
He just killed a bunch of people.
He just killed like a bunch of people. I mean, this film has like 15 casualties in it. They didn't go light on it, right? So this guy's killed a bunch of people. He finds one of the killers dead, and he just starts crying, rage, right? And then we find out that it was his brother, right?
Yeah.
Right. Family. And then he mentions, I know you guys hate your family. I happen to really like my brother. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. I thought that was perfect. It was a great way to work in a theme into a subplot, even in a film that doesn't really focus on it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, when he's like crying about his brother, I'm like, dude, you just killed half of this guy's family. We don't care.
I didn't say it made sense. I just appreciated that they did it. Yeah.
No, it was good. It was good.
Crazy.
Yeah. Cause he says, do you know what it was like for me to look at my brother and do this? And he's like, dude, I just killed your brother. Like they killed mine. Why did we care?
Yeah. It's wild. And so, but I did like the fact that she was a strong character.
She was, and it wasn't overdone. It wasn't overdone.
No. So it was realistic. That's the part that kept giving me like, yes. So there's a scene where after her midpoint crisis, where she jumps out the window and she's like at her weakest, she's been impaled with the glass and she's hiding behind the curtain. So they were right after the midpoint, kind of the death scene, the death of her character, the rebirth of her character, right? So she overhears everything. And at that point, I was like, oh, I wish she kind of figured it out on her own instead of overhearing that the brother was the villain. So I was like, but okay. So this is where we're at. So we're there, but the killer's coming towards her, and then she stands up. This is what I love, and kudos to the actor for this. She relaxes her shoulders. She gets her hands up. She brings them real tight. Now, I did Kung Fu for 10 years. I did Japanese martial art, Iaido, for another 10 years. So 20 years. And I'm telling you, that's how you do it. She gets her hands up. She brings them in close. She relaxes and her shoulders drop. I was like, wow, that is like spot on. He opens the curtain. She throat strikes him with what's called a Y strike to the throat. I mean, this is good stuff. And she puts him down. And that's exactly how it happened. I was like, okay, there's a level of realism and accuracy that this film brought. And I really appreciated it.
Yeah, no, she was great. I mean, great casting. And again, like I said, very believable. And for me, really kind of just carried a lot of the story. Like when it hit that midpoint, you're right. When it hit that midpoint and then it's this rebirth and she's basically now on this path where she knows who it is.
Yeah.
That's really where the movie kind of like picked up and told a faster, stronger story. And
Absolutely.
I was way more engaged and way more kind of involved in seeing this process through with her.
Yeah, I think with this particular type of genre, it's like you're waiting for the genre shift. Essentially, you basically start out, first act is basically a drama. It's a family drama, and then by act 2 we get into the horror aspect, and it's designed that way. It's a subgenre film. I thought it was cool, but I really did enjoy like the survivalist stuff she was doing and using a meat tenderizer, like crazy things that.
That was probably one of my favorite parts was that I was like, oh, she's not, I mean, yes, later on she picks up another kind of tool, but it's like a meat tenderizer. Love it. Great.
Yeah.
Great choice.
It was crazy. Yeah. I mean, she takes his knee out, so he's buckled down. She hits him in the head, so he's concussed. And then this is another realistic. She hits him in the back of the neck and he goes limp. Now what happens? She broke his spine right there. He was already dead. In the process of dying, he falls over, and then she just goes enraged, strictly just so that we could have a splatter moment.
Yeah,
that guy was dead 15 strikes ago. But so it is pretty crazy the amount of detail that this had. Plot wise, it's a contained horror that's got maybe 2 sets in it if you want to include the guest house. So there isn't much there, but the way they shot it, I actually really respected. It was not a steady cam. It was shoulder mounted. So it was a lot of motion with the camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think towards the end and halfway through towards the end, that worked better.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that worked as much in the beginning. And again, these were a couple of these like direction choices where I felt this should have been more steady cammed because you're trying to build that tension and that movement and that frenetic feel.
Right. No,
that should have built through.
No, I think you're right there. Yeah. Because that shoulder mounted really builds up the tension. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, because the camera is fluid, right? So your eye isn't really centered, following it around. And it did pop out. There's a couple of dramatic moments where the camera was all over the place, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? So yeah, I think you're right. I think it was a little distracting. I think if they calmed it down a bit, it would have been better. But to go directly from steady cam to a shoulder mounted like that, it would have been jarring. So they would have had to really work it in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a slow progression, but your audience psyche feels it as the tension builds. The camera's building it for you.
No,
really.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy a lot of the stuff they did. They did the strobe lighting and really making it creepy and turning her into a stalker killer, which
I know was so cool.
Is so cool.
And then she set up these like really like cool little traps, like the nails in the wood. Where I was watching her do it, and I'm thinking, what's she doing? And then I realized, oh wait, like it's just for them to step on. Yeah. Like I thought, like, is she boarding up the windows? What's happening?
No, I mean, she's coming after them. And I think of like a film like Mandy, where you have like Nicolas Cage, where essentially towards the second to third half of that film, he becomes a stalker killer, right? He becomes the villain. And I think it's tough to make that happen, because once you have that shift in the film, a character can feel like impervious. And then at that point, there are no stakes.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think with her being so beat up, but still being this powerful woman, I think it really worked.
Yeah. Oh, it did. And she did it well. It was, she was very dynamic to me and engaging enough that like, I was just excited to see her character follow through and spoiler, kill the boyfriend at the end, because screw that guy. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. It was a crazy moment, because you're thinking there's no way she has, I know she's murdered people, but she has a moral like line, and there's no way. So she's going to stab this dude. Yeah. Totally stabbed him. I was hoping he was going to get the axe in the door. Unfortunately,
that's what we thought. Yeah,
it didn't happen. I was shocked that she got hit by gunfire. Like, okay, that surprised me. And then of course, you have the ending, which is iconic to a certain perspective, because it wasn't expected.
Yeah. Well, and then for a survivalist, for pretty much basically nobody to survive. Like you think she's dead and then so whatever, but then nobody survives except her. It's like her ultimate goal happened. She survived.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely a conclusion. What I did appreciate with this story is that as she became more competent and stronger, they would hamstring her in a different way.
Sure.
So she'd get impaled in the leg, or she'd lose a weapon, or then she would be outnumbered again. So I think all of that worked.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I did enjoy it. I do, like I said, it did a good job of, you really got engaged, particularly with this central character and following her story. And towards the end, it was like a lot of like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen now? Like, it's great. It did a good job of that. Like, who's she gonna kill now, and how's she gonna do it? Because it's awesome.
Right. And I think from the antagonist's perspective, and this is what I really appreciated, those animal masks and the decisions that the actors were making really dehumanized them.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right?
We didn't touch on that, but that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really brings an amount of terror. This is something that The Purge really capitalized on with different masks, but I think I don't know, there's something about the visual, getting hit with the visual of they're wearing all black.
Yeah.
And they're wearing these white masks, and they're not necessarily predatory masks. And then the blood splatter on masks, it is striking and horrifying.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And they would kind of shift their head back and forth, almost like if you ask your dog a question. So it was very animal-like. And I thought that really upped the level of tension.
Oh, yeah. And that's going back to years and years and years ago when we were kids, masks and what they symbolize for us. I mean, Friday the 13th and Mike Myers and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Michael
absolutely.
Myers.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It's likened to that. But, and the turning of the head, it's just creepy.
I thought it was good. It was faceless. I mean, there's one moment where the one brother's wife makes it to the guest house. Or I'm sorry, to the neighbor's house.
Yeah.
And the guy's gonna kill her, and she's laying down there, and he like pulls the axe next to her and takes a couple of practice swings. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, right? And then he offs her, and then he sits down on the couch next to a dead guy to take it in. I mean, it was like moments like that. I was like, that is like, you don't see, Jason do that. You don't see Michael Myers take a break and catch his breath.
No, gotta go. Moving on.
Yeah. So I thought like little scenes like that were crazy, and it was very interesting seeing how plotted out it was, because you never see that in a movie. But here they discover one of the guys has been sleeping in the closet. They find bottles full of urine and power bar, wrappers and things like that. So I thought including stuff like that was really interesting, because it gives us a little bit more development of the antagonists without getting to know the antagonists.
Yeah, because ultimately I don't want to know them. Like I don't want to know. I don't want to have sympathy or empathy for them at any point.
Yeah.
So
not for this type of a film.
For sure.
We don't need to know that he was a weird looking kid that was abused at the camp.
We're sorry your brother's dead, but
Mom only loved him and he lives in the lake. So, we didn't need to know any of that. But essentially I do think this is something worth watching, especially because I feel like this was part of that wave of films that really kind of kicked off the home invasion, The Purge, the Hear No Evils.
Right.
And this film came out in a time when we were worried about it. I don't know if you remember back then, but this was around the time when people would dress up like clowns.
Yes. Yeah. It was that whole start of that wave.
Hang outside of your house, and people were getting shot. And so the mentality there, this has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, but you're right. It did come out around that time where
the mentality there is it's about power and control. So people that do things like that, they want to assert some kind of a dominance, and they look for, quote, what they call sheep. So if they see somebody out there that they can intimidate, they're going to intimidate it. The best thing you can do is just not be intimidated, right?
Yeah.
It's the quintessential middle school stare down.
Yes, it is. And I think honestly,
so sad. Yeah.
The central character represents that. So this film does a great job of bringing that to the limelight, but then you've got a character that's like, she's not going to be intimidated by this. I've been training for this my whole life. I'm ready.
She's not a sheep. And this is exactly why Kristy Lussier is on this show, to bring us back on the topic. And I respect you for it, ma'am. So we have a contest giveaway that we're doing.
Yes. Yay.
Yeah. And we have a lot of prizes. We have a free mentorship. We have script evaluations. We have swag and merch, all kinds of cool stuff. And if you listen to this show, you can use our weekly secret code to get 5 free entries.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Are you ready for the secret code?
Yeah, sure.
I
don't even know it.
It has nothing to do with this movie.
Oh, okay.
It's space opera. One word, space opera.
Space opera.
That is this week's secret code, and you can use that on the Successful Screenwriter Facebook page. Click on the giveaway tab. You could do it there, or you could go to the Successful Screenwriter /podcast, and then you can use the secret code there as well. Space opera. Opera. I really appreciate you being with me today.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a great time.
Always. Oh, absolutely. Do you have anything else in mind? Have these streaming gods reached out to you through thumbnails and suggesting what film we should check out next?
Oh, gosh, no, they haven't. Shoot. But I was going to do a little like peruse and meander through tonight because I was looking for a documentary of something else. Okay. So I'm going to be on the lookout.
I am supporting your meandering.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share in your social media where you can tag us at The Successful Screenwriter.